Other side. There we go.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
I was just going to say happy afternoon, and then I had to stop and think, is it afternoon for everybody who's going to be watching? But it would be, unless you're in Hawaii.
Right.
And then it would still not be. But anyway, welcome. We are happy to have you guys here. Welcome to the next segment of these live interviews where we're chatting with experts in a variety of areas who are all a part of this work from home collaboration. We've put together this amazing package of courses to help you adjust to this work from home environment. And we'll talk more about that later, but I'm super happy to have Siiri back again. So Chef Siiri is with us today. And if you didn't catch it, we want you to go back and watch the segment that she had from a few days ago, where she was talking about how to live and work in a small space, which was fantastic. And she is an expert at that because she's been doing it and living that way. But today we're talking about areas where she's actually been trained and is professionally working in these areas. And so we're just really excited. And so the topic today is chef-inspired kitchen and nutrition tips for you. That's a tongue twister. Try to say that one, like kitchen and nutrition tips.
Nutrition tips.
I want you guys to be saying that out loud right now, wherever you're watching this from. And I want to see if anybody around you looks at you funny.
I should have said that before we logged on to get my mouth. Do my little, right?
Like the little warm-ups.
Red leather, yellow leather. Exactly.
Yes, I could never say that. It never worked for me. Just a little bit of housekeeping. If you are joining us live, we want to interact with you. We want to be having conversations. You can ask questions. You can make comments. So stick those in the comments. So if you can just start by letting us know where you're watching from. You might see, if you haven't done one of these with us before, you might see at the top, allow StreamYard to access your account. And what that does is it helps us be able to see who's actually commenting. Otherwise, it just says anonymous user. And we really want to know who you are so we can talk to you directly. So please take a look and make that happen. Let us know where you're watching from now. If you're watching the replay, just put in a hashtag replay so we know that you're coming to us in the replay. So Siiri, I know that we talked about this the other day when we met, but when we had our chat, but I would love to hear again, for those who are watching for the first time, tell us how you came to be involved with this work from home project and what your role is.
Absolutely. So I'm excited to be here. It's always fun to try to collaborate with folks who have the same mindset and the same approach, but it's even more exciting when you find a group of people who have diverse and varied and different approaches and mindsets than yours, because I always find that really takes the blinders off of my work. So I came to this project through a new colleague of mine, Devin Jones, who's also one of the collaborators on this national platform. And Devin had connected with you, Kelly, and she had said, hey, Siiri, I think that there is a great space for you to contribute some of your expertise and information about how you operate in a commercial kitchen or professional restaurant chef setting to everything that everybody is facing right now. So Devin had connected you and I, Kelly, and when we first started this conversation, it was more around this concept of, oh, yes, we have all been working from home professionally for years. And also, let's talk a little bit deeper about the knowledge base and, working encyclopedia that we all have within our brains within each of our industry verticals. And so that was the initial introduction. And when you and I had first started talking about what could this platform be, which kind of blows my mind as a side note to think that was only 3 weeks ago.
It's crazy. It's crazy, y'all.
Fast it ramped up, right? So when we first started talking about that, it was like, oh my God, your brain just starts to kind of go nuts when you think about all the tips and tricks that you're constantly repeating to your friends and colleagues and clients and family. And so I stopped and sat down and thought, okay, what are the big buckets of topics or categories that I could potentially fit all of my helpful hints into, and how can we present that in an accessible platform that anyone, it's not just nationwide, anybody can access this, right? It's global platform.
Yep, no, it's worldwide. Anybody would be able to access these courses for sure.
Yeah, so that's how I came to this project, and that's how you and I generated basically the thought capsules that I have been consolidating all of my knowledge base into, both within, like you said, the first course that I did on living and working and running a business from a tiny home or a tiny space or a studio, and then these two courses that we're talking about today, which are focused on preparation and kitchen management as one, and then the basics and the foundations of daily nutrition and how that can help support really thriving in this new setting that everyone's living in.
Yeah, and I'm telling you guys, if you are not already following Siiri, you've got to do it. Just like all the other instructors who are doing courses as part of this collaboration, they're here because they want to help you. And I would only let people in if they actually had the expertise that we need to share with you. And so it's such a resource to have people like you who have multiple areas of expertise and experience, because you're bringing such a breadth of knowledge and tips and encouragement. So here's another thing that I see underlying for all the courses we're doing. Actually, there is such a big message of don't be so hard on yourself. Don't feel like you've got to get it all figured out overnight.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of tips in here. Just in Siiri's courses alone, there are a ton of tips. You don't need to implement all of those overnight.
No one can. It's impossible to even attempt that, let alone feel successful at it. So that's, clearly not what the message is within the platform or within any of my courses. And that's also why, case in point, as to why we made the platform evergreen. It's permanent. It's not going anywhere. So there's an ability to come back and watch a course over and over again. And for a lot of other courses, which, by the way, I'm really excited to take a dig into some of the Money Talk courses. I saw 3 Money Talk courses that are in a totally different category and vertical than what my work is in. And I'm happy that I have the ability to know I can go find it and I don't have to search for it. It's just right there in that vertical and it's not going anywhere. And I am excited that I can then reach out to that expert because all their contact info is listed under their course. So that it has a synopsis of the course, the key takeaways, a synopsis of the instructor and expert, and then literally all of their contact info. And I know that mine, like my phone number's on there. Like you can call me and we can have a conversation about whatever the thing is that you saw in the course, or even in this interview that maybe you need to know more information about.
Yep. Yeah. So we did want this to be a resource, not only that it would be evergreen as far as the content that you like. When people buy the course, they're buying everything. They're also getting access to anything that, gets added at a later date. It's all going to be there and it's there for your convenience and you take it at your own pace. So no need to get overwhelmed. And the same even with our conversation today. Obviously, we can't cover everything that you cover in your courses, but even with what we cover today, what you frame in your courses is like, look, if you even take 1 or 2 things away from this and start implementing those, that's a success. Yeah. That is a huge success. And so listen to all that Siiri has to share today. Hopefully you go and you get to see everything that she has to share in her courses as well as the other instructors. But always remember, just think about taking 1 or 2 things at a time. Don't get overwhelmed. Because what happens then is you end up burning yourself out. You think it's like if you start a new workout program and you're like, I have been sitting on the couch for 3 years, but I'm going to run 6 miles tomorrow. Yeah. No, you're not.
I literally just had this conversation with a client last night on the phone, and not that client was doing that behavior that you just said, but it's a reminder. This is how I work with my one-on-one clients, which is a section of my business. I do coaching in healthy eating, cooking techniques, fitness and nutrition. And I really try to implement this behavior or this idea and concept with every single one of my one-on-one clients. We're not going to go full bore and completely flip over your life in the course of 1 week or 3 weeks or even 2 months. Like the way to successfully implement anything in order to make it stick and make it permanent and a part of your new inherent behavior system is to do what I call small tweaks. And you only take on a couple at a time and you go through the course of habit making, right? So positive habit making requires at least 21 consecutive days of a behavior. So when we're talking about, especially with relationship to cooking and food and eating and kitchen management and preparation, if you only took away 1 thing and tried that every day for the next week just to see if it fit your lifestyle or it fit within what was interesting and alleviating the pain points that you're having, that's the way to make adaptive change and to make something stick long term.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, thanks.
It's an adaptive change. I love that term, just adaptive. It isn't static. It's adaptive.
No, not at all. And another thing that made me think of, and I had a separate client meeting with another gal who goes to my home gym here in town where I coach part-time, and we work on nutrition related recipes for her and her partner. And we were talking a lot about multitasking versus single tasking. And in the kitchen, as cooks, as chefs, we're constantly multitasking. But when it comes time to really get down to executing something, the idea of single tasking is what I think is super important in the kitchen, right? Like you can prepare a couple of things and have them running in the background, which is, funny enough, something that we talk about in the first video around kitchen tips and kitchen management and chef quality meals and preparation. But as you are, batch cooking and adding a 15-minute task here or there, that's setting you up when it comes time to actually sit down and focus on one small task of adaptive change. Just single tasking and having presence, being present, having presence of mind has been one of the major turning points in a lot of my clients' lives that get them to feel a little bit less crazy about what they're supposed to be doing, right? They find that hearing all of these various things that they should be doing causes that sense of overwhelm. And so I help them like, all right, let's just take a quick step back, literally from everything that you can see and read and hear about and think that you should implement. And then just take one of those things that might have the largest impact overall and just single task that one thing for the next 5 days.
Yeah, that's great. So let's get into some of the tips that you have so that people can decide which thing am I going to start with.
Yeah, sure.
So which one do you want to start talking about, nutrition or kitchen prep?
Well, let's talk about kitchen prep since we were kind of already in that vein a little bit. Yeah,
totally. So just so you guys know, the course that Siiri does within the bundle is so this is talking about like, how do you get things ready so that it's easy when it comes time to make a meal. So versus like a cooking show where you just see somebody cook an actual meal, these are the things that you don't know to do. So she works in commercial settings. She understands how to manage a kitchen really well and can bring that now into the home space. And so instead of being intimidated by thinking about like, I don't even know where to start, she's got amazing tips about how you can in your house, even while you've got all the craziness of working from home and now your kids are home and everybody's around and you're bumping into each other. How can you start preparing your kitchen so that when it comes time to make a meal, you can do it more quickly and efficiently? And so tell us a little bit about the framework around how to manage a kitchen at home.
Sure. Well, that's funny that you would mention that because the first thing that I was thinking about was list making. I'm a big proponent of list making, whether it's digital or written. I try to not do my list making mentally because if it's in here, chances are the next time something urgent comes in, the list gets pushed out. So I actually made a list of all the things that I wanted to make sure that we either covered or touched on, or just like the highlight reel, right? The highlights of what we talk about in the course, and then also things I wanted people to have a takeaway from this conversation. And on there is, no joke, list, label, and compartmentalize. So, kitchens, commercial kitchens, professional kitchens, it's really about setting up the work, right? Planning the work and then working the plan. And that also applies to your home kitchen, especially if you have more than one human in your household. And honestly, it is really helpful for people who live alone as well. Especially because when you think about if you do make your once a week grocery run, or you are getting a delivery and then everything comes into your kitchen, especially right now where we're focusing on sanitization and decontamination and focusing on making sure everything is clean and healthy, you might get lost in the shuffle of everything that you're working on and forget about everything you have. And so in a commercial kitchen setting, we really focus on inventory. What does my kitchen inventory look like? And this is something that I do in my one-on-one work with people. I have them go through their kitchen and make either a really quick, easy Excel digital worksheet that gives their inventory, and I have them split it out based on their nutritional groups. So proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. And then within that, things that are fresh, things that are dried and pantry goods, or things that are frozen. And then all of a sudden you have this really quick list, and it basically generates your weekly or biweekly grocery list. But even more important than that, it sets up for you what we call mise en place in the food industry, which is, everything has its place, and that's all of your ingredients. So when you watch a cooking show and they are getting ready, they have all their little cute prep bowls, and it's so pristine. Well, that's mise en place. But how did they get to that point where they had all that mise en place? Well, they had to know what they had to start with, right? And right now, especially in the time where we are trying to use what we have, for so many people who are laid off, who are working on a new constrained budget, they're trying to use what they have. And I'm doing the same thing. So when I actually do teach cooking classes on a couple of other platforms that I'm collaborating with, I'm looking right now at what do I have in my home kitchen that would be the same ingredients that a lot of people would have. And so we're pulling from that. But the best way to figure out what you have is to start with a list, a super basic kitchen inventory list. So that's like my number one big takeaway for people, especially from that course, is how to build that, how to take it away, and then how to have it as a living, breathing organism, especially for other folks in the household, and how that can actually quickly generate what you should be focusing on for a well-rounded meal, really healthy proteins, non-processed, what I call whole food ingredients, and then also thinking about, should I be purchasing that again next week, or should I try to eat through something else first?
Okay, so let me just recap that. So when you are going through and inventorying what you have, tell us again what the categories are that you break things out to be.
Yeah. So I break them out in what's called macronutrient categories, which is a portion of nutrition, which I talk about in the nutrition course that I did. And the macronutrient categories are proteins, which can be an animal protein or a vegetable-based protein, fats, which can be, again, animal-based, it can be plant-based, and then we've got carbohydrates, and carbohydrates include fruits and vegetables and grains. So those are the bigger categories, and then within each of those bigger macronutrient categories, I split it out into animal and plant-based, right? So that way people can look at it and say, oh, okay, well, maybe we should do Meatless Monday, which is a really wonderful effort. But if they don't have any beans or, anything that is a legume that might have protein in it, now they realize, oh, that's a gap in what I've got in my kitchen inventory. So tonight I'll pivot and I'll make something with this ground chicken that's in the freezer. But I know that now I need to put garbanzo beans or kidney beans or black beans on my shopping list for later this week or next week.
That's great. And I imagine most people, I can definitely relate to this. And I imagine most people can relate to the idea that we don't keep track of everything that we have in our kitchen. And you find it when you go to the back of your cupboard and you're like, oh, I didn't realize I had 6 cans of black beans back here. I didn't know I kept buying black beans, even though I had them. Or you go in your freezer and you're like, oh, I forgot I made chili and I forgot that I put leftovers in here 2 months ago and I never ate them. And so I can see the value of making sure you know what you have. Yeah. So how much time realistically do you think it takes? Like, let's say for a family of 4, how much time would somebody need to spend each week doing this inventory and checking on how their kitchen stands?
That's a great question. So the good news is that once you do it once, you can keep it up with very minimal effort, and it doesn't require a full purge and culling of everything you have. I would say if someone's never done this before and they have a household of 4 people, if they did it by themselves, it might take them 45 minutes to do, which seems like a lot. If you have multiple people in your household, then you should enlist their help, because that also helps everybody else in the household see everything that there is to eat. That also gets people cooking together, which builds socialization and single tasking, which calms our parasympathetic nervous system. But beyond that, in thinking about how people collaborate and cook together in the household, it's a really great way to get everyone to see, oh, I don't think we've ever eaten this before. Why did you buy it? What can we make with it? And that then builds not only the inventory in a faster fashion, but it gets everyone involved in seeing all of the ingredients that the household has, right? So if you had 4 people helping you pull, just one thing at a time, like let's do just the refrigerator. All right, everyone, grab your handfuls, let's get it all out on the counter, and someone can be the scribe and writing it down on a list or in Excel or whatever you want to use, and then put everything back into the fridge. And if you just have your simple your sheet set up with proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, you can quickly list what those are in each of them, go through the freezer and the fridge, and then do the pantry. And then by the time you're done, you've also probably pulled out what you want to have for dinner that night, and you've got some input from everybody else in the household. And maybe that took 20 minutes as a group of 4 people, but now everybody has kind of come together and everyone's assessed what's going on, and they're more aware of the inventory sheet. So then when you jump forward throughout the course of the week and you have that sheet available for people, as someone uses up the last of something, I have people do a check mark next to it. And that check mark indicates we are out of it. It needs to go on the shopping list rather than crossing it out, because if you cross it out, you can't see it, right? Yeah. So I try to then eliminate the work downstream. So if you just set it up one time, you have it recurring, you could print it off every single week, you know what you've got, and you know what you need to put on that list.
Yeah. And you have within your course, you have a really great sheet that lays out those categories that you just talked about with the macronutrients. And so it makes it easy for people to really understand and grasp that. So that's another resource. I love that you've got that inside your course. So, okay, the other thing, I don't know. We'll ask Jenny, because Jenny is going to be on this afternoon in a couple of hours talking about homeschooling and how to adjust into that. This sounds to me, as somebody who's not a parent, it sounds to me like something that could actually be a really great learning activity with your kids, because they can be learning about the different categories of food. They can be learning about quantities. They can be doing research on recipes. They could be doing a lot of things that, you know, you have it in a learning package, but you're getting your task done. That's going to help you as the person who's overseeing or managing the kitchen as a whole.
Absolutely.
So,
I would love to hear Jenny's take on that. And I'm hoping to tune in to see how she incorporates this, because I know she has been homeschooling for years. So she is a true expert at this. And, you know, I know that she will also pivot and talk about how to do budgeting for groceries and things of that nature. I know that's a huge part of the work that she does with her clients as well. What I will say is that for my clients that I work with one-on-one who have children, I do a lot of work in meal planning with them. And rather than spending an entire day on Sunday, taking everything out and batch cooking for 5 hours. And this is something that I teach in the first Chef's Meals course for this platform. I don't want people to spend all day in the kitchen. That's not how, you know, professional cooks plan their work. We plan to add on 15-minute tasks here and there to get things going while we're working on another project that requires our actual attention. But the benefit, like you said, of having children around and knowing that you need to be working on lesson plans and homeschooling is there's a lot of great lessons that can be applied in the kitchen setting. Conversions of measurements, mathematics of multiplication and scaling a recipe, understanding how to read a nutritional label and what that means. What is a gram versus an ounce versus a teaspoon, right? And how do those things all convert? So there's a lot of science to be had in the science of home economics and cooking. And then additionally, thinking about applied science, right? So learning more even about the chemistry of ingredients like leaveners, like baking soda. There's a million different ways that somebody could slice and dice, sorry, bad food pun not intended, to help with the process of homeschooling. And also, it's a great tactile creative break. So if you want to have your kids help make something that then everyone can eat, I would recommend, for instance, I have a couple of clients who I gave them an overnight oatmeal bake. So you can have your kids make their own version that's specific to the taste that they have, and they all get to do it, which is fun and interactive. And then the next morning, those have all absorbed all of the moisture in the ingredients, and they can bake them off. And now everyone has a delicious home cooked breakfast that's specific to them. So it gives them personality and personalization. They don't have to share, but they can if they want, right? And then you've prep cooked, batch cooked, and prepared healthy breakfasts with your kids, and they've become involved. So you are knocking off a task on your list and getting them engaged in that process as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So what are some other quick tips that you have around managing your kitchen? So you've done somebody's done their inventory, they understand what they already have in their kitchen. What are a couple of other things that you see a lot of, like common people like us that don't have the training? What are some other things that you see us miss that you can help us with some tips to get the kitchen really set up well for easy prep of meals?
Sure. Well, a couple things might be slightly counterintuitive. So you and I have talked about this before, but I live in a tiny home, very old tiny home, and I don't have a dishwasher or anything. And one thing that I see happen a lot in people's kitchens when they first start to work from home is they get sucked in by the time wasters. They have to be done, but do they have to be done in the middle of your workday? Probably not. So one of the things that I see people getting sucked into is, oh, I better do these dishes right now. Well, at some point you're going to get maxed out with work, and you're going to want to break and do something different. And standing up and moving your muscles and getting your blood pumping can be done by washing dishes later on in the day, like when you take your lunch break and you fix yourself something to eat. Do 5 minutes of dishes then, instead of every time you walk past the kitchen getting sucked into that time waste of doing something there, when realistically that's not going to be super efficient for your time, and you're going to continue to make dirty dishes throughout the course of the day. You can limit the amount of times you go in there to focus on cleanup. So that would be one tool I like to use. Another tip I have is when you think about how you visually recognize, have you ever had a person in your life or yourself when they say, I can't find the blah, blah. You're like, well, where have you looked? Like, well, you said it's in the fridge, but I don't see it. And then you open the fridge, you're like, it's literally right there. So one of the things that I noticed is that people's field of vision, they all operate a little bit differently, right? And so if you make one homogenized approach to that by way of taking things out of the containers that they might come in if you buy them in bulk, and having consistent containers that are all the same shape and size, or they match each other, and even going so far as to do like the labeling that we do in a commercial kitchen setting, which is incredibly simple and actually cuts down on a ton of food waste. And by that, I mean I use my trusty Sharpie and a roll of blue painter's tape, which I have actually, let me grab something and show you because I just taught this in a class yesterday.
It's so fantastic because these are tips that, like, you know, professional chefs are using these tips. This is what they do to manage a kitchen that has to have tons of ingredients and feed lots of people, including the staff, and doing it in a way that makes things really easy. And so it might feel overwhelming to say, I need to go label everything. But the way you're showing us right now can actually save time in the long run, right? Yeah. So it's not just about the upfront.
Right. And I just do it like when I'm making a thing. I'm not suggesting that someone goes into their kitchen and spends an hour labeling everything, right? But the next time you go into the kitchen to make a dish and then you have leftovers, just label that. And if you do that for a few days, all of a sudden everything ends up labeled, right? And it literally takes maybe 5 seconds to do it. So case in point, yesterday I taught an online cooking class. I do that live twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays for a really cool platform called Super She. And shout out to my Super She family. And yesterday I taught how to take one recipe and then make it versatile and do 3 recipes out of that. So I chose to make my version of chia seed pudding. It's a great snack. It has good, healthy whole fats in it, and it has great natural protein in it, and it's vegan. So I made 2 different versions on that class yesterday. And when I had each batch done, I portioned it out into my equal sized portion controlled Tupperwares, right? Now, some people use little mason jars or whatever you have, right? But this is like each one is one snack, and that gets me through the middle of the day. But then when I was done and I was portioning each one out, I put on my little tape label here with blue painter's tape. And this one I labeled as it's pina colada flavored chia seed pudding. So I put pina pudding or pud, and then I put the date, which was yesterday. And then I put my initial. And the reason I do that is well, there's a number of reasons. These all look the same, but they're not all the same flavor, right? So how will I know which is which unless I have a little thing on there that tells me this one's the pina colada one, this one's the strawberry banana one, right? And then also putting the date on there helps me remember, oh, I better eat that up before it goes bad, right?
Yeah.
And then the last portion of it, putting my initial on there, especially for people who have housemates, roommates, or spouses and children and partners, when you put that on there, that indicates like, oh, that was Kelly's, she made it. So I would love to have some. I'm going to check in with her if you're doing a food share household, or if you want to know what's in it, which is really important, especially for people with food allergies, you can ask the person that made it. So that's something we do in the commercial kitchen, especially because everyone's working on various project lists, and you need to know who made something, because if for some reason, let's say a sauce breaks in half and the emulsion breaks, or the ingredient doesn't look like the item on the menu, and so you're not sure what went wrong, right? Did something get left out? Was the technique done incorrectly? You need to consult the person that made that dish. So that's why they do it in a commercial kitchen setting, but it's easily applicable for a lot of different reasons that makes it very efficient in a household as well.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things I really loved about in your course where you're talking about organizing the kitchen is organizing the refrigerator. And you have some really great tips in there about leftovers. So can you share with us about leftovers?
Yeah. So leftovers, are you referring to my first in, first out situation?
Yes.
Okay. And if there's some other little nugget in there, let me know if I don't cover it. So the idea of leftovers, I will break out into 2 quick categories. So number 1, whenever I'm cooking, we've talked about batch cooking a little bit. And if you're not familiar with batch cooking, you're preparing one large batch of one ingredient with minimal seasoning that then can be utilized in many different dishes and applied with additional sauces or seasonings to make a specific cuisine. So you could do an entire sheet pan's worth or 1 pound or 2 pounds worth of ground beef and do minimal seasoning while you're cooking it, and then portion it out into, equal sized Tupperwares or what have you. And then you can do one that is a Southwest bowl, one that goes into a ragu for Italian night, right? And then you do one for stir fry. So you can take that one ingredient and all of a sudden you've made it really efficient, and you don't have to cook that beef 3 separate times in a row, right?
Yeah.
So when I go in for leftovers, if I have, even after cooking a meal at night, I'll put my leftovers into separate containers. And that way, when I go back the next day, I don't have to be limited to eating the leftovers of that one meal. I can take those components and make it something different for lunch. So that prevents boredom. It prevents, again, where you're like, I don't want to eat that again. And so then you think to yourself, okay, well then I'll save that for tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes around and you think, I still don't want tacos again, which no one ever says they don't want tacos again, but you get the idea.
It's crazy talk.
And then the other part of that is first in, first out. So first in, first out is just like when you're at a grocery store. You know, if you open up the cold case to get a carton of milk, the one that's at the front is technically the oldest. It's the gallon of milk that has been in the store for the longest. And the delivery that the store just received is way in the back of that case. So if you looked at the expiration date, the one in the front would say maybe April 15th, and the one at the back would say April 31st. So I treat my refrigerator and my pantry the same way. And that's also why putting your dates are so important on all of your labels. And, you know, I won't get into expiration dates, but what I will say is that if you are purchasing staples frequently and you want to have, or if you're at Costco and you want to have, let's say, the one almond milk that you're utilizing and then the next gallon behind it, so that's also cold, great. Put the new one that's unopened in the back, and that way no one opens that one until the one in the front is gone. So if you continue to, when you put something in there and you're putting your leftovers in at night and you think, oh, I'll just stick them in the front, just take a quick second, scan what's in there and move everything forward a little bit and put that guy in the back. And that way, you know that the thing that you made 3 days ago that's still in there, you might consider eating that for lunch tomorrow before you go back in and eat the leftovers from last night.
Yeah, because what our normal tendency is to just put the new thing in the front and start shoving things to the back, and that's when they get forgotten in the back. And fully aware that, like everything we talk about, we can give you these tips in perfect time. But we know that if you're living with people, I live with 3 other adults, all of whom do things differently. So it will never be a perfect system. Yeah. But I, like, even after watching your video, I had a conversation with a couple of my cousins here that I'm living with and was like, hey, what about this idea? And so introducing a new way of thinking about, because we often have things go to the back that we totally forget about and go bad. And then it causes a problem, not only because we've wasted that food, but now the fridge stinks, the dishes are gross. Like, there's so many extra layers that we just don't even want to get there. So
you run out of Tupperware faster. There's less room to put things in. You're like, I can't fit this in here. What is all this junk in here? Yeah.
Yeah. And even like you're saying with having the even containers, I'm sure a lot of kitchens, you've got all those mismatched things. Don't worry about going out and buying everything right now, but just be thinking about it as you're replacing things. Yeah. As Tupperware goes bad, think, okay, well, this next batch, I'm going to buy a lot of the same size things so that it's easier. The other thing about that is it's easier to organize it inside your fridge versus if you've got all different kinds of containers of different sizes and shapes, they don't fit together well. And so then it just causes disorganization naturally. There's nothing you can really do about it. It's just not going to work together. Yeah. So, okay, well, there's so many great tips here, but I don't want to leave out the nutrition because you've got a lot of things to say about that. I will just say that, you know, I know for people who are watching, it might feel overwhelming still because you're getting tips, you're getting little pieces. Inside her course, you will get a full picture. And the thing about having the course, like Siiri talked about earlier, is you can pause it, you can rewind it, you can go back and, like, if you miss something, you can go back, you could watch it at double time. There's lots of ways to do this at a slow pace. Yeah. So if you know that you need this, make sure you get the info about how to get these courses at the introductory rate. But now let's talk a little bit before we run out of time about nutrition and some quick tips that people can use for increasing nutrition during this crazy season.
Sure. Yeah. So the first thing that I will say and preface this with, there's 2 things. Number one, it's very overwhelming right now. And every industry is both trying to survive, thrive, and also capitalize on a captive marketplace. So there is a lot to be seen and read and digested and understood in terms of nutritional information. And, you know, we are all having an energy shift in the way that our daily life operates. It's very different right now. And I have, over the last 2 weeks, I've spoken with probably 15.
Uh-oh. Oh, no. All right. Can you hear me, Siiri? Can you hear me? Okay, so we may have lost contact with Siiri. I'm actually going to try to just send a message to her separately from this. And if that happened, what we'll do is we'll schedule another time to come back and talk about nutrition. But let me just see if I can catch her on a message. Isn't technology crazy? Like, it's so great that we can connect from different time zones and areas, but sometimes things just cut off. So if I don't hear back from her right away, oh yeah, it looks like we lost her. I'm going to see if she maybe comes back in, but let me just tell you guys while she's out, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the work from home collaborative that we're doing and the courses that are available. So Siiri has done 3 of the over 30 courses that we've got in this bundle, but it's called the Ultimate Work from Home Bundle. And what we've got in there are courses from experts from around the country who have, oh, it looks like she's coming back in now. Hold on. Here she comes.
Oh, the joys of working from home. Hi, everyone. Sorry about the internet.
I just was talking about how technology, but I was like, well, while she's getting back in, I just was starting to talk about the work from home bundle. So I'll just finish talking about that. Then we'll come back to the nutrition part. So the bundle is over 30 courses that are there that are evergreen. There's 3 different categories that we've put them into because we know it's not just about your work or your kitchen or your soul. It's about all of those things and more. And so within those categories, there are a whole layer of courses and we keep adding more. So as the coordinator of the whole thing, I keep recruiting new people to do courses. And so we've just added another person this week who's going to be doing a couple of courses around like looking for food in the wild. And then she's also going to talk about how to create some natural salves and medicines at home using things that you probably already have. So that's going to be a really fun course. But we put this all together. We wanted to do it in a package where people could have a one-stop shop. You don't have to go searching through YouTube. You don't have to do a lot of Google searches. You just know that you can trust what you get together in this one site. You can go back to courses as much as you want. You can go at whatever order you want to go. You can go at whatever pace you want to go. Once you're in, and it's there. And so on the ground floor, we wanted to give people like the best deal we could possibly do. And so thousands of dollars of material, expertise, like Siiri, you were talking about, if you were to just do consulting with one of the people who are a part of this, 1 hour of consulting with them would be more than the cost of this course. And so retail, the bundle we've priced at $4.99, which is already a steal. But Siiri, talk about what the introductory offer is right now.
Yeah, so the beauty of the intro launch offer is that the entire platform, every single course that currently exists, and any course we come up with in the future, you only pay one time. You pay the $99 intro rate, and there's an easy pay 3-pay option as well. So you could do 3 installments of the 33 and some odd cents. So it's mind-blowing because literally any of these experts in their consulting life would make at least $100 an hour just to do 1 hour's worth of work with one person. So when you think about multiplying 20 plus consultants and over 30 courses already, that value is beyond $3,000. And it will only continue to grow. And so what I think is really special about the platform specifically is not just the volume that we're providing, but that it is future facing as well. And so people get in now with the intro rate, and that covers the whole bundle, every single course that exists and future courses as well. And then the underlying additional value besides just having the course at your fingertips, or all of those courses at your fingertips really, is that you have direct access to each of those experts. You can literally call each of those experts and talk to them about the course they built, or if you have more niche needs than what's provided in that course, you can then work with that expert one-on-one for whatever it is specifically that you need.
Yeah. So I just want to clarify, that would be like you have access for sure. I just don't want anybody to hear that and think, oh, I get one-on-one consulting services.
No, right.
No, so but now, yes, now you know who you can go to. Because,
absolutely,
look, in this world, there are so many people who are calling themselves experts and who are saying, oh, I'm going to help you. But the benefit here is you're going to already see, because they're helping you inside the course. You know that this is somebody that you like, their personality, you would gel well with who they are. They really are an expert at the area that they are teaching in. Yeah. And now you can say, okay, you know what? I really need help, Siiri, with figuring out nutrition for my family. I want to contact you and see what it might be like to work with you one-on-one or do a program with you to get this more individualized attention that I need. And that's so cool. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay. Well, speaking of expertise, I know that you're not like a certified nutritionist, but you're a nutrition focused chef.
Yep.
And so you are always thinking about how to make sure that you're maximizing nutrition and making sure that you're helping your clients understand what kind of nutrition do you actually need. And so what are some of the really juicy tips around nutrition and how to make it easier to get what we need?
Okay. So I want to touch on the first thing that you said, just to set the framework for anything that I give in terms of information, or as some people might classify it, advice or expertise. So what you said is correct. I am not a certified nutritionist. There are a million wonderful certified nutritionists and dietitians out there. That's great. I have not gone to school for that specifically. I am a big nerd. I research the heck out of everything before I decide how I'm going to utilize that in a kitchen setting. And I have a very tight-knit group of consultants in my network who are registered dietitians, certified nutritionists, Ayurvedic doctors, actual PhDs and MDs that I have known for years. And anytime I'm figuring out a new piece of nutritional data, I do my own research, I consult all the people in my network, I take all those data points and put them together, and then I offer my clients the information I have with my understanding of it, and they can take that at face value and do with that what they want, but it helps to inform the choices that we can make in terms of how we feed ourselves. So that's the lens that I put on to anything that I do that's nutritionally focused. And I came through that path because being a professional chef was not my first career. So I made this transition in my early 30s. And, I wanted to make sure that I was doing it with the right approach because food education is my passion. So that's why I work with a network behind the scenes. And in that way, I'm kind of my own consolidated platform, right? I'm doing all the consulting behind the scenes, getting all that great wealth of information that's all based in research and science and certification and licensing. And then I bring a consolidated idea of how we can integrate that into how we cook for ourselves and how we consume and eat on a regular daily basis. So with all of that said, especially with regard to thinking about nutritional pillars in our daily life, I always think about nutrition as a totem pole. Right. So if you think about a totem pole, you have to have that foundational block in place before anything else can be placed on top of it. And as we were talking about previously, before I got cut off in the internets, there's so much marketing out there, right? And everybody is talking, all these companies are talking about their new supplement and the new protein powder and being vegan, and there is a lot to be listened to and considered across all the various niches of the field. But what I will say is that there's very clear science of decades worth of data that showcases what the foundational pillars of your well-rounded health nutrition should be built upon. And I try to give people that science that shows that, number one, you need to make sure that you're getting enough calories in the day that are from those macronutrient pillars that help to provide your body the specific types of energy it requires to perform at an optimal level. So that's what this course, number one, focuses on, is my totem pole of nutrition. First, thinking about, are you getting enough calories? How do you even know, right? So this is work I do with my one-on-one clients. And if anyone is interested in that, they can reach out to me as well. But understanding the basic pillars of caloric intake, and am I getting enough? Am I getting enough protein throughout the day? Can I support muscle growth and muscle sustainability? Am I getting enough fiber? And if you look at your basic macronutrient categories of fats, proteins, and carbohydrates, then you can start to understand, oh, this one item fits into that category. And there are many, many apps and tools out there in the world that you can use to track these kinds of things. There's some big ones that people have been using for years, like MyFitnessPal. I actually logged in there the other day to check something for a client, and I've been using that since 2011. It's been around for a really long time. And they have a huge group of employees that are working to consistently make sure that the content inside of that is valuable. So that would be my first pillar of nutrition. And then a couple other things to be thinking about is your hunger timeline. So I cover this in the course as well. A hunger timeline is essentially, when do I start eating during the day? Like, how early is that? How long have I been awake? And how frequently am I eating throughout the course of the day to make sure that I'm providing my brain with enough sustenance and my body with enough fuel to continue to operate at an optimal level. So the hunger timeline basically starts when you wake up. And when I work with clients one-on-one, I have them run me through their entire day, minute by minute. Okay, now what do you do? Okay, well, what did that look like? And how long did it take you to get there? And did you eat before you left? And did you eat after you got there? And I really assess for them their hunger timeline. And by understanding how frequently or infrequently they're eating and what they're eating at those intervals, I can help them see the roller coaster that their body systems are going on throughout the course of the day. So if we then take a couple small tweaks at a time and just add in like, okay, well, let's get you eating something before the 3-hour mark goes by when you wake up in the morning. Let's give your metabolism something to work on and jumpstart so that it has the ability to then perform and sustain you throughout the course of the day. As a caveat, that does get people into the discussion about time-restricted eating and intermittent fasting, which we will not be covering in this course. I have a separate course for that, and I have taught that course many times. I have done a ton of research and consulted many physicians about this, so if somebody wants to have that information, they can reach out to me directly. But understanding the hunger timeline really does help, especially right now when you're now getting your home office set up and you're like, okay, wait, I don't know where anything is. I'm starving, but I just have to finish this one proposal. I just have to finish this one PowerPoint. Yeah. I just have to make this conference call. And you're like, well, I can't do it now because it's going to be loud and I'm on my earbuds. When you think about it from that perspective, all of a sudden you're changing yourself over and over and over again throughout the course of the day. So that leads me to my number one big takeaway of the nutritional course, which beyond the idea of getting enough calories into the day is don't shortchange yourself, have a crash kit. So crash kit is something that it's a term that I've coined. I'm sure other people call them something even nicer and less awkward than that. But a crash kit is essentially a small Tupperware that I keep on hand in my home office or wherever your office is. And then I also have one in the car, and it's comprised of shelf-stable items. So for instance, with my food allergies, I use Lara bars, I use Epic bars, I use dried tart cherries and dried figs. And those things fit into my various macronutrient calories, and they're a patch over, right? So instead of crashing, right, when my blood sugar crashes, I'm providing this little kit to myself, which I call the crash kit, so it patches me over until I can actually have a full, nutritious, well-rounded meal. And if I have that crash kit and I can have half a Lara bar and half of a jerky Epic bar, then I have had 2 of my macronutrient categories, and probably all 3, fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. It gives my body just enough little energy to get over that hump, gets my brain activity back up and running, and then I can finish that conference call and then go make my lunch. And when I do that, I'll make my lunch without the, like, my eyes are bigger than my stomach mentality. Mm-hmm. So I make that lunch and I'm like, all right, what do I actually have? I'm not now in this state of urgency and this state of crash mode.
So is your crash kit your cookie jar?
Yes. Do you want to see it?
So I will tell you, in your course, you can see the cookie jar like hanging out on top of the fridge. And, like, I am a cookie fanatic myself. I love cookies. But this is a much healthier way to stock up your cookie jar.
This was born out of necessity. And actually, I will tell you that I took this page out of my dear friend Adam and Troy's book. So Adam and Troy, if you're watching, this one's dedicated to you guys. They had always in the house a cookie jar, and it was full of granola bars. And I was like, that's so funny. For years, I was like, I love that. That's so cute. And then when I moved into this tiny house, I thought, I have literally nowhere to put anything. And then I thought, well, I don't make cookies because of my food allergies. So I guess I could use that to make my crash kit. So I have in here a Lara bar. I have RX bars. I have my full venison Epic bars. I have collagen powder packets that I can make just a steaming mug of, boiling water and pour that in. So I get collagen and it tastes like a really good, healthy soup, and I can just sip on it in a mug. So that doesn't require any work in the kitchen whatsoever other than boiling water, right? Yeah. And now I have all of them in there. So I can cut one in half, wrap it back up, throw it back in there, cut another one in half, and I get that down, finish my meeting, and then I can go make something.
Yeah, that's such a great piece of advice. So the last piece, I don't know if you've got other points, but one of the things that stuck out to me that's so important, and I've already kind of been doing it before I got on here, but
I was just gonna say hydrate. It's last on my list that I wrote down. Yes, I know, and I'm almost empty. Yeah. It's huge. Yeah, hydration. We know, everybody knows we need to be drinking more water. Like there are very few people that I know in my life, especially even in the industry of fitness where I'm coaching part-time. Rarely are any of us getting the actual amount of water that we need. And there's a number of formulas that you can find online that help you calculate how much you need. I do the ballpark method. The ballpark method is that most female structures need 2 liters a day and most male structures need 3 liters a day. And that's without working out. So if you're working out, you need to drink more than that to replace what you've lost. There are some ounce to pound ratios too, like half your body weight in ounces. But that tends to get people a little bogged down, and it seems like a barrier to entry. So if you can try to get 2 liters in, great. And, I was looking at this one the other day, having this conversation, and I said, oh, I wonder how much this is. And this is 32 ounces. And so then I thought, oh, well, what's a gallon? Like what's the conversion rate of gallon to ounces? And I looked it up and I'm like, oh, okay, so I need to be having like 2 to 3 of these a day and try to get that much in. And that's a challenge. So then I gave myself a little hack. This seems like too much. Like, this is hard for me to wrap my brain around. Like, that's just a lot of water. Just one of those feels like a lot. And I know that makes me kind of a baby, but it is what it is, right? That's my barrier to entry. I don't want to do this. But if I fill this up and then I have my cute little, glasses, like a little flat bottomed wine glass, and I fill that up and I just drink that. And then every time it's empty, I fill it up again. I actually go through this 3 times a day now, just because it's a smaller portion. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I should drink that little glass of water. So breaking it up is very helpful. But hydration is huge.
For me, getting one that has a straw makes all the difference, because for some reason, if I have a straw, I will keep drinking. Versus if I've got to keep doing this, I just won't. And I don't. So I think it's so important that you just know what works for you and embrace that and go with that flow. Yeah. So I do want to ask you, you talked in your course about other ways that you can get hydration that it's a thing that I always wonder about. Yeah. Tell us another thing that you'll do when in the morning, what you'll prepare for the day.
Okay. So, spoiler alert, it's not coffee. That's not going to help you hydrate.
Dang it.
Sorry. So I know I drink a lot of coffee. Everyone in the food industry drinks a ton of coffee. And if they don't, either they're lying or they're allergic. But what I do in the morning. So the first thing that I do in the morning is I drink an entire pint glass of water to help flush my adrenals, and kind of get my body into, okay, let's wake up, let's get going mode. And I also then take like the very limited supplements that I take every day at that time. But what I'll make in the morning is I will put the tea kettle on and I will boil my water, a whole tea kettle's worth. And then I do a full teapot of like a caffeine-free berry. My favorite one is the Celestial Seasonings Wild Berry Zinger tea. And it's really nice. And I'll boil that and do a full teapot of that and pop it right in the fridge. And then because it's not caffeinated and it's actually an herbal tea, so it doesn't have any tea leaves in it whatsoever, it is not going to dehydrate me. It's not a diuretic. So I will be actually hydrating by drinking that. And then sometimes that's not tasty for some reason. It's not appealing for some reason. So I have these glass jars. You can do this in a mason jar, literally. And I'll take a thing of sparkling water and I'll pour that in there. And then I'll take a sprig of whatever herb I have left in the fridge. So rosemary or mint. And if I don't have that, I always have lemons and limes in the house. And before I put a slice of lime in, I'll actually roll it on the countertop to release all the essential oils in the skin. Of course, we want to make sure that all of our fruit has been cleaned when we brought it home from the store. Yeah. And then having just a couple slices of lime in the bottom of that mason jar. And then every time I pour that into my glass, I fill it back up so it consistently has a little bit of that lime flavor in that entire jar. And then maybe replace the lime halfway through the day, just add one more slice or what have you. Something about that just makes it a little bit more palatable and a little bit more interesting to be consuming that volume of water throughout the course of the day. There's no reason you can't pop a little flavor into it, right? So if you have a garden, or if you don't, the next time you're at the store, buy 1 package of mint and just you smack it and it releases all the natural oils in it, and then you submerge it in water. Yeah, you slap it like that and then you pop it in there. Yep.
So roll the citrus and slap the mint.
That's right. And if anyone's logging in right now, that's all you need to know.
That's the whole course. This whole time we've been talking, that's all you needed.
That's right.
No, I love it. And I know that you've got so much more wisdom to share. You share a lot of it inside the courses. And then also, obviously, when people work with you privately, there's just so much breadth and depth of knowledge that you have around these areas. And so happy to have you on this team. We did drop the link to your special pricing. It should be in the comments. People should see that there. Or in the description of the live from today, it was also there. Perfect. And we'll tell you, you've got to follow this link is how you get to that $99 pricing. If you just were to go to the public site, it's $4.99.
Yep.
So when you go in this way, you'll see it marked down to $99. So your $400 savings, and you can also do that payment plan, the 3 payments.
Yeah.
And so whatever works for you. Listen, $33 a month for 3 months is nothing, right? I know that this is a season of like, we're uncertain about the future, but you have got to take care of yourself, and you need support and tools to make that happen. And so this investment, it will repay itself. We know it will repay itself over and over and over again, because you can go back and back and back to these courses.
Absolutely.
So if you just need help right now figuring out how to set up your kitchen, or you just need some nutrition basics, or you just need to know how to set up your home office, or you just need to know about one of any of the 30 plus topics that we're covering, you can go in and get that for now and come back for the next one and come back for the next one.
Yeah.
So just pace yourself.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just going to say the one other thing that I noticed. So I like to go around and look at all the different titles and categories as well. And I was browsing just to see like, oh yeah, I want to put that on my list of things to watch later. And if someone clicks the link to get in to the bundle, and they see the homepage, and then they start clicking around the various vertical buckets, right? And they're looking at all the course titles. If you can't get back to that main bundle page with that intro pricing, just X out of it, come back to the post, click it again, and it'll pop you right back into that homepage, because each of those verticals you can also purchase separately, individually, but not at the intro rate, and which is mind-blowing. Like if we want to buy the entire platform, you're going to get a better price than buying just one single vertical.
That's right. Just one of those subject areas is $299 individually. Yeah. And so we're giving you 3 of those in one bundle for $99, which is, I don't know, sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe we're super crazy, but really we want this to get into your hands. And because we did it collaboratively versus if any one of us tried to put all of this together, we would have had to put a really high price tag on it, because it would have taken us our entire year to get everything together. But because we did it collaboratively, and we said, let's take a little bit from this person, a little bit from this person, and when we put it together, it's really powerful. And so the other thing I will say, I know this is, the stimulus checks are starting to come for people, and part of the intention there is that we can start to put something back into the economy. This is like a win-win, because you get something that's going to help equip you, and you're putting money. This is all going directly back into the pockets of the people who put it all together, all entrepreneurs, all people who are making our own way in the world. And so it's let's help keep that cycle going. We want to give you really great content. You give us a little bit of the money, and we're all in this together, right? So
no, we truly are all in this together. And my last thought and note that I was having coming into this interview today was that you and I talked about this in our team meeting previously with all of the experts that are on this platform. And it is astounding to me how every single one of those people, and I know you were thinking about this as you were onboarding people, every single one of those people, those experts, they have that same mentality. Like, I just want to help people get this information into their lives so they can move on. Like, I just want to give them the tools they need to empower them to do what it is they were already doing. I just want to eliminate this frenetic, chaotic sense of anxiety that a lot of people are having right now. And that was really the goal of everyone coming together and collaborating on such a massive amount of data and information.
Yeah, that's really true. It's a group of, you can see, I think you see when we're doing these interviews together, anybody who's not yet a part of the Work From Home Survive and Thrive Tribe Facebook group, definitely get over there and join. It's a community of support. We can celebrate with you when you have wins. We can help you when you're having struggles. And you'll see, like, the people who we're doing these interviews with, all of the instructors, everybody who's part of this collaboration. We really are here because we want to equip you. We want to empower you. We want to take out some of the stress in your life. Look, we can't control the rest of things. We don't know when the economy is going to get back to normal. We don't know when health isn't going to be such an issue. We don't know any of that, but what we can do is help you with these things and get you 1 or 2 tips in the areas you're really struggling, so that you can feel better about the rest of what's happening, so that your energy isn't spent on anymore. Your energy is not spent on prepping your kitchen or worrying about the nutrition of your family. You've got tips in there to get that done. Now you can focus on the things that are still happening, that are out of your control.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Siiri. And if anybody is watching the replay and you've got questions, pop them into the chat. So we'll come back around and respond to that as well. The link to get to that bundle is here. Take advantage of that. Again, this is our introductory rate. We don't know for how long it's going to stay at this rate. I'm sure that it will go up at one point. So get in on the ground floor here to get access to all of these and whatever courses we add in the future. We are happy to be doing this journey with you, and we want to reassure you that you are not alone. It's okay to feel overwhelmed, and we've got some things for you to help you deal with that. So take advantage of it. Yeah. All right. So good to see you. And I see that Clarissa was here for a bit, and Jenny, who just a little tip, if you are watching us live, come back in just about an hour. I'm going to be talking with Jenny about accidentally homeschooling, and she's got some great tips and reassurance for the parents who are going crazy trying to get it all figured out in this season. So come back. We've got some really good stuff for you there too.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Right.
This is great.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bye. Take care.